Hey gang, welcome back you guys. Matt here and another Bro Audio video. Well, it's been a while you guys, but I am so excited to share this with you. I have been working on this for a while and yeah, it's a new stove. How about that you guys? Check it out. So as you guys know, I've been doing this stove building, masonry, heater, rocket stove thing for a while. And if you watch my old videos, you know I'm super into barbecuing and smoking meats and cooking low and slow and, you know, cooking with fire, all that stuff. So I've been missing that in my life and I really wanted to build a dedicated cooker for myself. Now, in addition to that, I wanted to try to do another small format heater that could work for folks moving into really small spaces who have limited room. Maybe they have more vertical room, don't need a cooktop. And so I just wanted to do a version of my Riserless core in a small footprint heater. And so this heater covers both of those bases. So for me, this is an outdoor unit, a brick oven, barbecue that I'm going to use mostly for cooking low and slow. But it will get hot enough to bake and cook pizzas and things like that. So it's very versatile. But as well, I think it would make an excellent small heater in a small space. It's very compact. It's about 30 inches square and would do a great job of heating a really small space. So let's talk about it though for cooking, because that's really my main thing. So this is a brick oven based upon a rocket stove combustion core. So down here I have my Riserless core, which is a rocket stove type combustion unit that doesn't have a lot of vertical overhead. So the core itself is just that 14 inches higher. So, and then it exits back here into this large square oven chamber. The exhaust exit is down low in the chamber, so the heat stays in the chamber until it cools and finds its way out the exit. And that's the basic gist of it. So, you know, for me, this thing, like I said, low and slow cooking, baking, things like that. One of the other things I wanted to do was I built this core using my Riserless core, and I built it using entirely Firebrick splits. So it's a heavy core as compared to my normal ceramic fiberboard cores. Takes a little longer to come up to temp and start burning clean and efficiently. That's real good for me for cooking it. You know, I'm looking for that thin blue line of smoke for my low and slow. It does go smokeless and it does burn very clean, but it just takes a little longer to get there. Now the advantage of that heavy brick core for me in this cooking application is real stable cooking temps, long even heating cycles. So once I get it up to temp, I wouldn't want to put any food in there right at the beginning of a fire because there's going to be smoke as it comes up to temp. But in about 10 minutes or so, it starts burning hot, real clean. And the advantage of that is then once I get it settled into my appropriate cooking temperature, I can feed it one little piece of wood at a time, let it basically go almost all the way out, and that heavy high mass core underneath the cooking chamber provides a long, even heating cycle. So that was my intention there. Now a couple, you know, I'll cover the details as we go. I'm going to show you guys a time lapse of me building this. I want to show you, talk about a lot of the details that I did. I made some choices here. I used a door that I already had. I would recommend something homemade. You don't need something that complex. That door has a divider in between the openings in those two little doors, so it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I don't recommend that door, but I do, you know, you don't really even need a fancy door. You could just use a, it doesn't need a real tight seal. In other words, you could use a small piece of sheet metal that just kind of was on simple hinges and folded over. There are other, you could use my aluminum door manufacturing process, and there's some different ways to approach it, but really one of my goals was to make it a real simple build, so you could do away with that door entirely if you were just cooking in this thing and you'd be just fine. So there's that. And now, as you guys know, I do have plans available. So for anyone who needs more help than is available on this video, you can go to my website. There's a link down in the description. And I do sell plans. I charge a little extra for them because the intention with those plans is that you get my consulting with that purchase. And that's really, you know, a lot of folks can just watch the video and feel comfortable diving in and moving forward on their own, but some folks really have questions, and I'm here to help you work through, help you find your dream heater or cooker. So if you'd like some consulting help or need a little more guidance, feel free to check into those plans. I brought that up just because I talked about the door. So in the plans, I do have some door construction concepts and also some links to where you can buy them. Hit me up if you need any of that. I'm happy to help. So my cooking chamber is just a big open cooking chamber. At this point, I'm just putting racks on bricks, and my door is just a piece of wood with some ceramic fiberboard on the back with some tin foil on it to just kind of keep it from dusting too much. Now, I did purchase some hinges, and I may eventually install some hinges, but to be honest, I think I maybe prefer that because it just gets it out of the way. Now, my cooking chamber and my heater in general, my oven in general, is fairly small, and I did that intentionally for a couple reasons. One is that just suits my needs. I don't cook a whole lot of food at any one time. That's big enough for a brisket, which I cooked yesterday. I did a 16-pound brisket in there. It fit just fine. Big enough for a rack of ribs and pork shoulder or anything you might want to put in there. But that combustion core has plenty of power. So this could potentially heat a much larger cooking chamber. So if you were going to build yourself like a competition smoker or something like that, you could do a couple things. You could extend the footer here, and you could build a much longer cooking chamber, or you could go vertical and you could build it much taller. But either way, you could make an enormous cooking chamber on this, big enough to do a whole hog. There's plenty of power in that combustion core. You know, I wanted to keep it small because I just don't want to use that much fuel every time, because I'm always going to be doing small cooks. Now, this unit at about this size took about 200 bricks, so it weighs about 1,600 pounds or so. If you were going to build this inside, you'd want to reinforce the floor or just make sure you have adequate support. Now, I did pour a very small footer under here. It's below grade about an inch, so you don't see it here because I didn't want to be banging my knees into it and tripping over it. But I do have about a 4-inch concrete pour that I put down below grade, and then I just started my build on top of that. You don't necessarily need to do that, but that's going to ensure a long life of no cracks and give it a nice stable foundation. If you're back east or somewhere where there's frost lines, you definitely probably want to take that step. So for mortar, I just use my classic clay and sand mortar. It's 3-to-1 dry by volume, and I use a sharp sand. You can get it from Home Depot, and a fire clay. The fire clay is nice because it's all screened and powdery. You don't need to worry about cleaning it out. That mortar mix I like very much because it's flexible, easy to use, it's not caustic. The downside is it will not hold up outside. So as soon as it starts to rain, it's going to start to wash the sand out of these joints. So if you're going to build an outside one that you want to last, you can do a clay sand mortar, but you're going to need a roof over it or a cover or something. Now, it won't just disappear. It's going to take years for it to wash all the way away, but it will start to erode. And so it's important to protect it. Now, I like the clay sand mortar because it's flexible during the heat cycles of a stove like this, where it heats up and cools off, you know, large swings pretty quickly relative to masonry materials. And so I like that material because it's flexible, it doesn't crack. But one of the most important reasons I like it is because it's real easy to remove and redo things. That, you know, it's not hard to clean the bricks off. But if you were going to go for a permanent build, I would suggest looking into some of the more permanent Portland-based or lime-based mortars. You know, a Type S Portland-based mortar, they add a lot of latex and bonding agents into that, and it does stay pretty flexible. So I do think that's a great choice to build yourself a permanent one of these. I think you'll see some small cracks as it expands and contracts. I don't think there'll be any danger there. but do prepare for that. Now you could fill those cracks with a clay sand going over the top, or just remortar when it's expanded. The downside to those types of mortars is they're pretty permanent, and when you do, if you do want to make changes or take things apart, you've got bricks that are real loaded up with mortar. So that's my choice, to use the clay sand. I just wanted to give you that brief overview. And let's see, let me check my notes here. As I said, you could do a lot of different. This stove is real versatile. It would accept a lot of different variations. You could do, like I say, a longer cook chamber. You could do a lot taller. It would also be an excellent boiler platform. In other words, you could just use this chamber for either a water coil or a small heat exchange tank, and this would be an excellent shower type setup or specific hot water heater type layout configuration. The way the core stays low and provides heat down low makes it an excellent application for that. So it would be an excellent boiler, and as well as a heater. If you wanted to add benches, it's a real easy situation to just extend benches off of really any side, and we could have heated benches, heated seating for an outdoor area, heated seating for an indoor area to provide a larger thermal battery for heating a small space. Whatever you want to do, it's really versatile. So, the Brick Oven Barbecue, my new cooker featuring my Riserless core. I'm so excited about it. I'll get some food shots in here for you guys. I cooked some brisket, and I've done a few little bacon bombs in there. But I'm excited to show it to you. So I really hope that this hits some of your needs. I know some of you have been asking for something like this for a long time. So let's dive into it. I'm going to show you the time lapse of me building it. I'll do a little narration. And we'll show you how it came together. All right, guys, check it out. Okay, so here we are starting. So as I said, I poured a little concrete pad down there, and then I just set my cinder blocks on top of it. I did leave it about 1 inch below grade, and I pulled gravel over the top of it. I just thought that'd make a little nicer finish and not have a little edge where I'd always be stubbing my toe. So here I am. I'm just dry fitting everything. So whenever you do any masonry, it's always a great idea to start and just dry stack everything, make sure it's going to fit, and then you can go ahead and start mortaring. So here I am. I'm just mortaring it to these base bricks, to the tops of these cinder blocks. Now it'd probably be a lot easier if you used a piece of hardy board or something like that to make a flat surface to mate to. I was just mortaring to those edges, and it was a little tricky, but it worked out fine. It came out nice and flat. You always want to get your level out anytime you're doing any brickwork, and make sure you're just leveling every step of the way, all the way through. I didn't do the best job of that, actually. Mine came out a little not flat and square and true, but it came out pretty good. So here I am laying the Firebrick, the beginnings of the core in there. You want to do that before you do any mortaring of the beginnings of the red brick as well, because this is going to dictate your perimeter, right? So it's a real good idea to get that core in there and give you an idea what your inside space looks like. A lot of cuts, but that's okay. I wanted to fit it into this particular format. You could make, as I said, you can make the base bigger, head for a bigger smoker, and you wouldn't need to make quite so many cuts. So a lot of bending down, but it's not too bad. When you mix your mortar, like I said, clay to sand, it's 1 part clay to 3 parts sand by dry volume. It makes a real nice mortar mix. You want to keep it kind of stiff if you can. It makes it a little easier to work with. And you can start building up quick. And you'll notice as I go through this, I dry stack every layer, and then I just come back and set each brick individually. And I find that's a real nice, easy way to work. I've got my wet saw there for cutting bricks. Always wear ear protection whenever I'm doing that. It makes a heck of a lot of noise. But it sure is a nice tool to have if you can access one or rent one for the build. It'll make your job a lot easier. If not, no big deal. You can use an angle grinder with a diamond blade on it. You can chisel the bricks. They actually cut real well just with a hammer and chisel if you practice a little bit. But the wet saw does allow you to make a little bit more precise cuts. So I'm building up the chimney support here. There's no chimney down here, but it's just going to support it as it gets a little higher. As I go, I'm continuing to level, and I'm leveling from the in as many planes as I can, right? Just horizontal and vertical as well as I go around, trying to keep everything moving straight up and down and staying level. One of the advantages of the clay sand mortar is it's not caustic. So you'll see I'm wearing gloves here because it is abrasive, but there's no lime and no Portland, so it doesn't have any acid or any, effects on your skin like those do. So here I'm laying the base for the oven, and you'll see I'm adding quite a bit of mortar to level it out over my uneven core surface there. And then you can see that little opening right there in the left corner. That's where the core exits into the oven. So when you build your oven, you can configure that as however you like. You can rotate that core underneath the oven, you can move the oven around, so you can put that exit wherever you like. Now I have it opposite the chimney exit, and I keep that chimney exit down low, and that allows the heat to stay in the oven and really circulate. So here I am starting to build up the oven. And as I told you before, I don't really care for that door, but I had it and it worked well. If you do your own door, it's going to be a little smaller than that, a little lower. So this one kind of extended up a little high, and I had to make some adjustments to make it fit. I don't recommend using that door. It's always a good idea to have a hammer around just to tap things into place when you're laying the bricks. And as you can see here, it took me, I did it over the course of a couple days. And I think that's a great way to go. Don't try and push too hard, is my opinion, because you start getting real sloppy. At least I do. I start getting real sloppy. As you can see, I do go pretty, I put in quite a bit of work this day. So right there, you'll see a little support under the chimney exit. That's a temporary pillar that holds up that joint there as I start to create the chimney span. As soon as I get this next layer on, it's all kind of holding itself there in place now, and I don't remove those until I'm just about done, but that's a nice way to span a gap, make a temporary little bridge there, and then once it's up there, the weight of the rest of the bricks will hold it in place. And so you can see I'm just cruising right along here. And here I'm working out the span across the oven opening. Now you can use any number of materials here. A real simple way to do that is just use some angle iron. You can use an old bed frame or just some kind of scrap you find, and create a span there that'll carry the bricks across. Now in my case I used a piece of flagstone that I had, and I think that makes a real nice finish detail, and it also is a real easy way to build that span. A lovely way to do both the span and the roof for this build would be to use arches. It's quite a bit more work, but it results in a very, very nice finish. So you could do an arch opening there for your oven opening door for the door. And one of my concepts, or one of the things I thought I might do, which I didn't do because I had a nice top cover, is you could do an arch or a dome for the whole top of the oven. It'd be very nice. Now in my case, I just used this piece of concrete that I had cast for another project. It's about 31 inches square. It was a perfect fit, and I put a piece of ceramic fiber board over the top of the oven chamber to protect the concrete so it doesn't crack or spall due to the heat. So it was a real easy way to do that. And now what I'm doing is I'm just tucking, pointing, and washing all my joints. You can't see it, I'm going around the back here, but as I come around you'll see I'm starting to fill in any little gaps. I'm filling in the gap underneath the concrete top there with some mortar. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of a frame here for my door to close on. This wasn't a great way to do it. I think I'll use metal angle in the future. All right, so that's how I built it. I think that you should be able to get a pretty good idea of the process through that. So I'm gonna get to cooking, and I will see you guys next time. All right, thanks. See ya.